This honors geometry lesson is on section 4.4 on trapezoids. The objective is to know and apply the properties of a trapezoid. A quadrilateral with exactly one pair of parallel sides is called a trapezoid. The parallel sides are called bases. The other sides are legs. So these two parallel sides are the bases of our trapezoid. And these two sides over here are the legs of the trapezoid. One thing I want to point out is remember that two parallel lines cut by a transversal have special type of angle relationships. We have same side interior angles, we have alternate interior angles, and we have corresponding angles. So what I want you to envision on this diagram is that we have our two parallel lines, which are going to be our bases. And I'm going to go ahead and extend those lines. I want you to think of each leg as a transversal. So if we extend this line here, what you're going to notice is that these angles here are always going to be supplementary because they are going to be same side interior angles. And what you're going to notice on the other side is that if you treat this leg as a transversal, you're also going to have a second set of same side interior, which are also going to equal 180 degrees. A trapezoid with congruent legs is called isosceles. So in the diagram, we know that this is a trapezoid because we have one pair of parallel sides. We also know that this is isosceles because the legs of the triangle each have one tick mark, which means that they are congruent. So, theorem 4-15 states that the base angles of an isosceles trapezoid are going to be congruent. Okay, so our base angles, here's one set of base angles. Remember, a trapezoid has two bases. So in an isosceles trapezoid, you're going to have two sets of base angles congruent. And here is our second base. And as you can tell, we have a second set of angles that are also congruent. The median of a trapezoid is the segment that joins the midpoints of the legs. In this diagram, if we look at MN, segment MN is the median of trapezoid TRAP. So what this means is that M is the midpoint of TP and that N is the midpoint of AR. Since MN is the median and M is the midpoint of TP, I now know that TM is congruent to MP. Because N is the midpoint of AR, I also know that AN is going to be congruent to NR, which leads us to theorem 4-16. The median of a trapezoid is parallel to the bases. So as you can tell, we have our arrows which indicate that all three segments are parallel. And second, the median will always have a length equal to half the sum of the lengths of the bases. So let's say that we know that one base is 4, so PA is 4, and the second base is 12, so TR is 12. What this says is that if I want to find, and we're going to go ahead and label the median X, so if I want to find that median, I know it's going to have a length equal to half the sum of the lengths of the bases, which is the average. So I'm going to take base 1, which is PA, add it to base 2, which is TR. I'm going to take half of that, and that is going to equal MN, which is the median. So 4 plus 12 is 16, and 16 divided by 2 gives me a median length of 8. Let's take a look at an example. A trapezoid and its median are shown below. We're going to find the value of x. So on the previous slide, we learned that the median is going to be the average of the two bases. So what that means is if I take the first base plus the second base, find their sum, and average it, which means to divide by 2, it's going to equal the measure of the median. So if we want to set up an algebraic expression, we can say that the first base, which is x plus 5, plus the second base, which is 4x minus 3. If I add those up to find the sum and take the average, which is going to be divided by 2, that is going to equal 3x minus 1. So I want to know what value is going to help me determine the median. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start simplifying. So I'm going to simplify my numerator. So x plus 4x is 5x. And then 5 plus negative 3 is a positive 2 divided by 2 equals 3x minus 1. The next thing I want to do is I want to get rid of the 2 in the denominator. So I'm going to multiply both sides of my equation by 2. And what I want to remember is when I multiply both sides by 2, I'm going to have to use the distributive property. So this is going to give us, and I'm going to move up here just so we have a little bit more room. It's going to leave us with 5x plus 2 on the left-hand side of the equation. And then once I distribute, so 2 times 3x is 6x. 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. And now I'm just going to solve my multi-step equation. So I want to combine my x's. So I'm going to subtract 5x from both sides, which leaves me with 2 equals x minus 2. And then if I add 2 to both sides, I now know that the value of 4, when I substitute it in for x, is going to give me the correct values for the medians and the bases. So let's go ahead and check that. So if we substitute in 4, so 4 plus 5 is 9. And then 4x minus 3, so 4 times 4 is 16, and 16 minus 3 is 13. And then 3x minus 1, so 3 times 4 is 12, minus 1 is 11. So if we did this correctly, if we add up base 1 plus base 2 and average them, it should give us the value of 11. So if we take 9 plus 13 divided by 2, we want to see if we did this correctly, and it equals 11. So 9 plus 13 is 22, and we do know that 22 divided by 2 is 11. Therefore, the value for x is equal to 4. The last theorem we're going to take a look at today is Theorem 4-17, and this deals with the median of a triangle. So the segment that joins the midpoints of two sides of a triangle, one is parallel to the third side, okay, which is down here. So if these two here join at the midpoint of the side, it's going to be parallel to the third side. And this is going to have a length equal to half the length of the third side. Okay, so half the length of the third side. So if the median is 8, then the side it's parallel to is 16. So if we want to plug in a couple different numbers to just kind of see how this works, let's say that the third side is, let's say, 18, which means that the median is going to be half that value, which is 9. So again, the median of a triangle is the segment that joins the midpoints of two sides. And what that does is it's always going to be half the length of the third side, and it's also going to be parallel to the third side. This is the end of the lesson. If you have any questions, please feel free to watch the video for a second time. After watching it for a second time, if you still have questions, write down any clarification questions you may have and bring them to the next class.